another case for Hoover. They needed to get Ed Bremer home safe, which is why they didn't attempt to follow the ransom or do anything, that would gum it up. But once the money was gone and once they released Ed Bremer safely and he staggered home into the family mansion the next morning, that's really when the FBI's work began. I thought we were home safe, and I thought the money was clean. We checked, and sure enough, the serial numbers were random, just as we demanded.
The ransom was paid in unmarked bills. But unmarked bills isn't the same as untracked bills. Hoover had this very primitive version of a computer in the FBI headquarters in Washington. And he hired a bunch of temporary clerks, and they recorded every single one of those thousands of $5 and $10 bills in a tabulating machine with punch cards. And they were able to produce an ordered list.
This was cutting-edge technology, and the gangsters didn't know we had it.
Bank tellers throughout the nation would compare every bill that they got with the list of the ransom serial numbers. So the Barker gang got to Chicago and felt like they could gradually launder this money. But the minute they spent it, gigantic headlines showed up in the newspapers. Ransom money spent in, this town or at that bank. So the Barker gang had to quit spending the money. They didn't know it was marked by the serial numbers being recorded. That had never happened before.
Tracking bills wasn't our only innovation. There was something else. Fingerprints.
On the way to Chicago, with Ed Bremer in the back of the car, they didn't want him spotted at gas stations. And so they carried refueling cans. The kidnapped car stopped near this town, Portage, Wisconsin. And Doc Barker got out to refuel the car. And it was cold, but Doc couldn't really get the gas cap with his glove off. And then they threw those gas cans into a farmer's field, and a farmer later found them.
Now, today, all of us, even us that don't do safe cracking and bank robbery, know that our fingerprints can lead the FBI to us.
Although it was a brand new forensic tool, we were about to prove its worth.
One of the fingerprints turns out to be Doc Barker.
Finally, we have a lead. We already have those fingerprints from a previous conviction. We know the route the kidnappers took, and we can start putting faces to fingerprints.
Damn fingerprints. Damn newfangled science. There was only one thing for it.
Fred Barker and Alvin Karpis were so spooked that they went to a doctor to have their fingerprints sliced off. This fellow was named Dr. Moran, sort of a rogue physician. And he performed these very painful operations in which he would inject morphine into their fingertips and then take a razor blade and slice the flesh off.
Talk about the cutting edge of technology. Still, we didn't need to ID them through prints. With Alvin Karpis, we actually just got lucky.
There were some 3 flashlights that Alvin Karpis had purchased.
The flashlights were used to mark the spot where the ransom was to be dropped. The kidnappers left those flashlights and they became part of the evidence. The clerk who sold the flashlights saw them and said, "Oh yes," and identified a picture of Alvin Karpis as having bought them. But she was mistaken. It was voluntary. He never looked anything like Alvin Karpis.
Mistaken, Doc. Alvin Creepy Karpis had just got himself a promotion to public enemy #1.
It could have been perfect. Bremer was supposed to be the best job we ever pulled. The best job anybody ever pulled. Instead, it was the beginning of the end.
Are you sick of UTIs? We need one here. This inspired my husband and I to start Eucora. Eucora makes proactive urinary tract supplement. If you get UTIs, try Eucora. Eucora saved my life. Try today at Eucora.com.
Important things aren't worth compromising. If farmers
get cranky because she heard the 2024 Medicare Advantage plans are now available during the Medicare annual enrollment period, and she wants details.
I'm already on Medicare. Why should I call and check up on my Medicare plan?
Hi, Martha. Plans and benefits can change each and every year. That's why it's important to call to get your free 2024 Medicare benefits checkup.
I already have my Medicare card. I am not calling.
Martha, right now is the Medicare annual enrollment period. 2024 Medicare Advantage plans are now available, so everyone on Medicare can call to see if a Medicare Advantage plan may be better for you. You can even call to see if there are any changes to your current Medicare plan in the coming year.
They probably won't answer the phone.
Well, Martha, if you call 800-957-4509, a licensed insurance agent will speak with you and look up your plan options and see if there's a plan that will better fit your healthcare needs.
Why don't I get these automatically?
Martha, 2024 plans are now available, but you won't get a 2024 Medicare Advantage plan automatically.
I think I called before, so I'm not calling.
Martha, right now is the Medicare annual enrollment period. 2024 plans are now available, so now's the time to call. So everyone on Medicare should call now during the Medicare annual enrollment period and get your free Medicare benefits checkup today. Just call the toll-free number on your screen. It's free.
Free?
Yes, Martha. The call and no obligation Medicare benefits checkup are free. They can look up your plan options and let you know if you're eligible to enroll in a 2024 Medicare Advantage plan available in your zip code. Call now and we will see what plans may be best for you.
It's time for me to call and get my free, no obligation Medicare benefits review.
That's right, Martha. I should have just given you the toll-free number. It's on everyone's TV screen now. Call 800-957-4509. 800-957-4509.
How did they make Starburst taste so juicy?
I don't know. You just asked the whole universe.
Humans are asking for juice. We are the juice.
Starburst.
The next generation of streaming is here. Introducing the new Sumo Stream Box from Spectrum. Now, you can watch your favorite on-demand movies and shows, and the most popular apps, all in one place. Find what you want, faster and easier than ever, with our advanced search feature. Spectrum TV and Super. Extreme, simplified. Learn more at spectrum.net/stream today.
This weekend is your chance to save big at More Furniture. Take a full 21% off your purchase. There's still time to get your home ready for holiday guests and entertaining. And this weekend you'll get an additional 21% off. So create that cozy guest room. Deck out your dining space. And create the living room of your dreams. All at 21% off. Visit morefurniture.com for details.
You dream about playing for your country. Can I get a witness on the biggest stage?
Thank you for doing the dishes, Susan.
You're welcome.
Fingerprints on a gasoline can finally point us in the direction of the gang that kidnapped Bremer. Alvin Karpus and the Bloody Barkers. I can hardly wait to set the dogs loose.
Alvin Karpus's ascension to the position of public enemy number one occurred late in the era of the Midwest crime wave. After babyface Nelson and pretty boy Floyd were killed, he was the last of the big public enemies.
Karpus and his cohorts went on the lam.
We all split up. I headed to Cuba with my girl Dolores. Doc met a nice girl in Tulsa. Fred went to Florida with his mom.
Around this time, my colleague, the high-profile FBI Inspector Samuel Cowley, died in the line of duty, and I was poised for a promotion.
Connolly came in and he began to supervise the roundup of the Barker gang.
Problem. We didn't have the evidence. Couldn't even hand it a parking ticket. Couple of fingerprints on a gasoline can ain't gonna convict a kidnapper case. But we caught a lucky break. We shot a guy called Eddie Green by mistake. A case of mistaken identity.
When they shot him, his common-law wife, Bess, ran out of the car screaming, hugging her husband lying on the ground bleeding to death. And
a whole series of 100-year-old guys. And so when the FBI finally was able to crack her, she told them everything.
And Beth not only gave him chapter and verse about Dillinger, but also about Barker.
It was the revelation from the gun mole, Beth Green, that blew the whistle on really how everybody fit together.
They threatened to expose her for the gun mole she was. To embarrass her in front of her kids. For that, she ratted out Campbell, Shotgun George Ziegler, Bonley Davis, even Freddie and Ma Barker. That kind of betrayal disgusts me.
They finally figured out how Karpus fit together with Freddie.
This was a revelation for the FBI. It was also a revelation that there was a person named Ma Barker, and that this gang traveled around with a 60-some-year-old lady. They had no idea until Beth Green told them.
That's not all she told them.
She was the one who told them, you were wrong about the ham kidnapping. It was the Barker Karpus gang. Now, the lights went on in the FBI's office.
The FBI starts to realize what the Barker Karpus gang actually is, but they've disappeared.
We've got eyes everywhere, and we know what to look for.
So in essence, the FBI chases the Barkers from city to city. The first big break they got came in Toledo in early December, when the FBI agents descended on it, trying to learn what they could about what the gang had done there, living in brothels and this type of thing. And they were talking to a local lawyer who passed along the rumor that, oh, by the way, Doc Barker had married a local girl. And they were like, huh? What? Yeah, about a local girl named Mildred Kuhlman. Apparently a bit of a fun girl from Toledo. So they started investigating Mildred Kuhlman. And it turned out that some of Mildred's friends knew she was living in Chicago.
We discover one friend in particular is off to pay Mildred a visit. It's the only lead we have, but it's a good one. We tail this girl all the way to Chicago.
They follow this girl until she leads them to Mildred Kuhlman and a man who looks exactly like Doc Barker. The FBI camps out outside the apartment house just off Lake Michigan.
They were ready for a shootout. They cornered him on the street.
Doc goes to run for it, steps into a gutter filled with snow and ice, slips and falls, and says something to the effect of, this is a heck of a day, you've forgotten my gun.
He won't squeal, but he doesn't have to.
They found in Doc Barker's apartment a map of Florida that had, right by Lake Weir in Florida, a circle around a group of cottages.
Some days you just get all the luck. And that day the Barkers ran out of luck. We hopped on a plane and headed straight down to Lake Weir.
The raid occurred in the morning.
They were hoping to find Fred Barker, Harry Campbell, and Alvin Karpus. Those were the three guys who were left. Earl J. Connolly went by himself up to the front door of the Lake Weir cottage and knocked on the door and asked for Fred Barker. And Ma Barker said, who wants him? And then all hell broke loose from there.
Fred Barker responded by firing out the window with a machine gun.
Once Freddie opened up with a submachine gun, Connolly basically said, let him have it.
The machine gunning went on for hours.
I believe it was 1,500 rounds was emptied from the FBI into the cottage.
They put up a hell of a fight. 14 federal agents versus Freddie and his 61-year-old mother.
When Ma Barker was killed by gunshot, the FBI had a dead grandma on its hand, and that was a publicity problem.
The FBI's official account says Ma Barker held her smoking submachine gun in her arms, even in death. And there was Freddie, dead as well. And this was an incredible victory for the FBI.
There was a desperate 4-hour gun battle. Small Barker's mother and leader of bandits was killed with her gangster son Fred.
According to Al Karpus, she couldn't mastermind a jigsaw puzzle.
Dang,
There's no evidence
that's
of
messed
positive
up.
criminal. Maybe
She couldn't mastermind a jigsaw puzzle.
with a couple of kids who were out there being crooks.
Talking doo-doo about Ma Barker.
I was public enemy number one, not Ma Barker. And I was still on the run.
They had just settled into a new house in Miami when word comes of what had happened on Lake Weir.
Of course I was sad. Freddie was my best friend, and Ma, she was family. The tears could wait. Somewhere in that Lake Weir house was a postcard with my address in Miami.
He and his pregnant girlfriend clear out of that house within hours.
So we put her on a train to Atlantic City, and him and Harry Campbell drove up there.
They roar out of Miami as fast as they can.
As it happened, the car was stolen in Tallahassee.
It was the only car stolen that day in the entire state of Florida, so we knew it had to be Karpus. We put out an alert with the plates to every agency we could think of.
They drifted over to Atlantic City and they stayed in a boarding house there on Kentucky Avenue, 2 blocks from the ocean.
The day after they got there, an Atlantic City police officer noticed that license plate.
What about this